Fire Emblem is a series that I only recently got into. I didn't really grow up with it, and my only exposure to it during my childhood was, of course, Super Smash Bros. I recently, however, picked up a copy of Fire Emblem Awakening, and by recently I mean about 2.5 years ago. I was enthralled by how engaging the gameplay was and how amazing the characters were. And after doing a little bit of backpedaling into the series past, starting with Fire Emblem 7, followed by Fire Emblem 8 and Fire Emblem 6, I began to realize that the newer games were rather flawed, and as my hype for Fates began as it was announced in February of 2014, I was rather excited, thinking that Fire Emblem Fates would fix a lot of the problems that myself and a lot of others had with Awakening. And while Fates did well to balance out the gameplay and make a lot of the characters a little less quirky and over the top, it still reeked a lot of Awakeningisms. And even though there were some characters who were well written and did feel like the GBA characters, they were few and far between regarding both games. So, I myself and a lot of other people have problems with the newer games, and judging by the fact that I made 2 videos regarding this subject, you can definitely see why. And I even made a video complaining that the older games aren't as perfect either. Now, it's got me thinking recently, what do I want out of the next Fire Emblem game? And the short answer to that question is a lot. I'm expecting something really good, is what I'm saying. Now, the purpose of this video is purely for discussion purposes, and this video is entirely my opinion and what I personally want to see in the next Fire Emblem game. So, this video will largely focus on 2 major things. I'll probably split it into 2 parts, seeing as how this is going to be a long one. Those being the focus on the gameplay and a focus on the story. Now, with that all being said, I think it's time that we get right into what I want out of the next Fire Emblem game. Now this video is going to be a little different style-wise than compared to my usual stuff, in the sense that I'll be talking for longer periods about more things. So if you need to pause the video and rewind to try and keep up, that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to go in pretty fast, so make sure you pay attention. Now, this is a common complaint that I see with the newer games, and this is even a complaint that has been brought up many times in both my videos and the videos of others, which is that the modern Fire Emblem games, which how the support system and the avatar works, have created what most people like to call tactical waifu simulator, waifu emblem, or any billion combinations of any other joke. Now, I don't quite have as much problem with this system as some other people, mostly because it was in the first Fire Emblem game I played, so I'm kinda used to it at this point. Now, before you call me an Awakening fanboy, my personal favorite game in the series is Fire Emblem 8: The Sacred Stones, which lacks basically anything Awakening had aside from the map screen. Now, gameplay-wise for Fire Emblem 15, I want to have the support system from the newer games hybridized with the support system from previous games. Now, the way I want it to work is I want characters to have infinite supports. No 5 support conversation limit like in the GBA games. However, a lot of the problems with the newer games regarding how many characters people can support and the infinite supports, a lot of supports just feel like they're lazily written, lazily shoved out the development room, because it feels like, oh hey, we have to write a support between these 2 characters and we haven't come up with anything. Let's just shoehorn some stupid story about them peeling potatoes or something. And a lot of good interaction and well-written supports that were in the previous games are lost because of it. As such, I want to have infinite supports among characters, but I think characters need to be limited in the sense that they can only support 6 characters. This, I think, is a good number, in the sense that if they support 6 characters, that means they can A, have 3 romantic pairings, and B, 3 other pairings with other characters. This is good because now we have 3 options for A+ supports, which are a great addition, and 3 options for S supports. This will also help the developers and the writers focus on writing good supports, as they have now limited the overall number that they have to write, meaning that we can get longer supports, more well thought out supports, and just better supports in general. Now, of course, the 6 support limit won't fall out to all characters, of course, but I'm saying for most characters. Obviously, the Lord will have more supports than 6, and some characters will probably have less than 6, judging by when and where you get them. This 3 support system, I think, is probably the best way to go about it in the newer games. And on the note of characters who can support more characters than 6 characters, when in regards to the avatar, I want the avatar to be able to support maybe 15 characters. Now, a lot of you are saying, why are you talking about the avatar at all? I thought you made it clear in your other videos that you hate Corrin. No, this isn't true at all. While I would love to do away with the avatar as a whole and not see him in any future Fire Emblem game or anything of the sort, at this point, Intelligent Systems knows that the avatar makes money, and since they're a business, they're probably going to keep it. I don't see them removing it anytime soon, so I'm effectively backed into a corner where I can't please anyone. As such, when regarding the avatar's involvement, I'm going to have to say we're going to have to take an FE12 route and make it so that they can support, fight, and have no bearing on the story. Think Diet Robin. So, yeah, there you go. Now, the biggest thing about the support system that I want to stress is it will also follow Fates' way of doing the pair-up and the guard stance. Now, Fates, I think, did a great job of balancing out how pair-up worked in Awakening, where it was absolutely broken in that game. Basically, if you had 2 married units, especially Chrom and Sumia, they were basically untouchable. Fates did a wonderful job remedying this, and I think they should stick to it. Speaking of adjustments that Fates made to the system, regarding infinite weapon use, here's how I want that to be handled. If you're going to keep infinite weapon use, bring back Constitution. Now, I like the Constitution system. My main complaint regarding its inclusion in the GBA games is that it's rather unbalanced and biased towards heavier classes, which, while kind of sensible, is, again, you're punishing the player twice over for something. So, either durability or Constitution, one or the other, I think is a good compromise. And as for how they should run Constitution in the newer games, there needs to be a standardized Constitution for every class. Think of it like this. Lords will have 5 Constitution while unpromoted. Then as they promote, they'll gain +3 and go up to 8. The same goes for every class, as they'll have a standardized Constitution which will increase by +3 when they promote. All Berserkers will have the same Constitution, all Knights will have the same Constitution, and if you were to reclass into a different class, you would then gain that class's standardized Constitution. For example, if you were a Swordmaster with a Constitution of, let's say, 9, and you reclassed into a General, your Constitution would now jump up to 14, or something like that. Now, this is of course only if they don't bring durability back. And if they do bring durability back, here's how I want that to be handled. I want Iron, Steel, Silver, Brave weapons. They should all break. But S-rank weapons, legendary weapons, and character signature weapons, like, I don't know how Walhart had the Wolfberg in Fire Emblem Awakening. That's just the best example I can think of. Weapons like that will not have durability. This way, you have more incentive to use the stronger weapons. However, the stronger weapons will give some kind of decreased bonus, clean it up because, oh god, the punishment for some of the S-rank weapons and fates is just disgusting. Now that that's out of the way, the series, over the course of time, has developed two distinct gameplay styles. Now, Fates brought this to light with its two versions being Birthright and Conquest. Now, Birthright, for those who don't know, is structured in the similar way to Sacred Stones or Awakening. Birthright allowed you to grind for experience outside of battles using a fee, and then you could get some spare experience just by like farming bandits or something. While Conquest, on the other hand, followed a more Fire Emblem 7 formula in the sense that the only way to get experience was to either do a main story chapter or a side chapter. Now, personally, I like both systems for various reasons, and I personally like the way Conquest plays, but, you know, I do enjoy having extra experience. So, what I think should be done is at the beginning of the game, when you choose between either casual or classic, no Phoenix mode because screw that. When you choose between casual and classic, afterwards you get a choice between, I don't know, I'll call it Ranger and Conqueror. Yeah, that sounds fine. In Ranger mode, you'll be able to take down bandits for a small price, and you'll be able to grind for experience outside of battle. While in Conqueror mode, it's how Conquest works, and you're only stuck with side chapters and main chapters. And I think setting this at the beginning of your game would be a great thing for new players and classic players alike. So, that still remains a few more things that need to be tied up regarding gameplay. Firstly, this is more of a visual thing rather than a gameplay thing, but get better critical hit animations, as I feel they lack the punch and the amazingness and the hype that the GBA games had. Secondly, while I like the voice acting in the newer games, I feel like it's a little minimal, and there should definitely be more voice acting. Like, I'm not saying make the game fully voice acted, but in crucial story moments and stuff, there should be a lot more voice acting. Like, could you imagine, for example, if at the end of Blazing Sword, when Nurgle is reviving the dragon, what if that entire segment was voice acted? Do you know how hype that would be? Or Lion's death, that would make the scene even more tear-jerking than it already was. So, on crucial moments like that, I think we need to switch to full voice acting. And as my last point regarding gameplay as a whole, in regards to Fire Emblem 15, please, please do not make dual versions. Please. I don't want this series turning into Pokemon. Having multiple routes is fine, but please don't make it dual versions. I'm not even sure why you made dual versions of Fates, because if you can fit all three games on one cartridge, why bother? Now, I know that Nintendo's official statement regarding this would be that they'd have to make the game more expensive in order to fit all three versions. That is BS. Buying one path and then buying the other two paths digitally is the exact same as buying the special edition. So why not just raise the price? Why? It's stupid. Well, that concludes part 1. So, I'll put an annotation up on screen, which will take you to part 2. And you can also go ahead and subscribe if you want the latest updates on when my content is coming out. And thank you for watching. Part 2 will be right around the corner.